Worth keeping in mind here as well, NYYRIKKI did lose a ban due to being late, so that is the reason that initial ban was not taken. So that is info for those of you at home. But with these drafts locked in, any particular preference yourself on who you favor here?
I mean, I think that Desk were focusing on YRIKKI, picking up the Silas now. You know, they kind of use the quote, it's kind of like the Polish leader in terms of the player leader, L-I-D-E-R, of course, very famous ERL in solo queue player. Never really made it work massively over at the LEC, but he has always been, and YRIKKI kind of follows in this archetype of a low-range, high-mobility kind of melee assassin player, and Silas kind of falls into that wheelhouse. And I think that focusing on that champion when you are looking at a lot of champions you can dive onto, do a lot of damage, and be a big playmaker should be a good draft to set up YRIKKI for his entry into the NLC in his debut game here.
Can see there YRIKKI as well, just using his stolen Kalista ult passive to link himself with Dan. So if he steals a Fate's Call, he can throw a Trundle into the mix.
I was actually wondering who he was going to do that with, because there's logic to put that Fate's Call onto. I was about to say pretty much everyone, but I was thinking, look, would I be bold enough to put that onto Samira? But no, maybe not that one, but I think everyone else.
Beyblade, let it rip!
Yeah. Oh my god, that's fantastic. That would have been awesome. Dragoon!
Dragoon, yeah, exactly. Oh my days, my childhood's coming back. Get knocked down, eat ground.
What I will say is never watch Beyblade like in the current.
So you said it hasn't aged well.
It hasn't aged well, not in the way that Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or many of the others have. But I was wondering, of course, who would be linked up with someone like Dan on the Trundle. Allows them a lot larger degree of safety, gives them the way out of fights. But every person does have utility for it.
Have got to come out to a pause here. A little bit of an in-game issue, so we're going to just take this moment to talk amongst ourselves. Probably not about
that sounds like
Fate's Call Samira.
That sounds like the kind of thing a substitute teacher says when they're like waiting for the next thing to happen.
Oh no.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous. I mean, we've got Twitch chat doing that. We don't actually have that much oversight ourselves, so behave.
What Twitch chat is effectively the back row of the bus.
Oh no, that is actually very true.
No, we
do they like to stop the chat? I need a wee-wee. Is that just like the chat that goes on?
Stop the chat. Yes, that is going down a rabbit hole I wasn't prepared
for. I know. It's just like my days on the school bus were limited, but there are a few.
It is there open. It is waiting for you to discover.
Pity the mods. I think I might have done some trouble to them. Anyway, we're ready swiftly back onto the Rift.
That's what
talking amongst yourself is not needed anymore, people. Let's get back to business of League of Legends. School is in session. The Gulborg School of Play-by-Play casters, where of course Don Jake Gulborg, mentored somewhat by Mikkel. Wonderful caster that he is.
Gulborg was mentored by Goldborg. Of course, Duckling being the other one of those.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry, Duckling. See, you've taken so much on from Goldborg, I can't differentiate the two anymore, is what I'm going to say. Someone like that Goldborg's probably quite offended, as is Duckling, actually.
It feels good to have some Danish representation in the NLC, of course. Denmark has had such a big impact on League in general. I mean, outside of
esports in general.
Yeah, I'm about to say, outside of like the kind of meminess of haha, national pride, but you know, there's something too. I mean, I would love to see a World Cup at some point with League. I doubt that it's going to happen with current pro players with the way that it works. I know there was some talk about it in seasons past. But speaking of this competition, this game here and now, one thing that Kalista allows you to do is win the early levels and allow your support onto the map. Abagnale did this in their last game. YRIKKI wise to their tricks though, and the wave is pushing into them. Might end up losing a minion or two, but able to get that cannon, I would assume. Does he have the Q? Presume he does. But he actually doesn't even need to use it right there. He's going to pick up a lot of fun from this.
There you go. Does indeed. And worth keeping an eye here as well that it is a cull start for Azator's Kalista. Gone for the exhaust as well. No heal, so looking to be a little bit more aggressive with these summoners.
Or rather it is cull on the first back. It's the thing that we saw from the LPL when they were playing with the Jinx in spring, because Jinx was such a big champion back then. But either way, the logic is the same. If you control the lane very early on, you can build up to a third wave crash, you can push that wave in, and instead of your support resetting, you use that crash to roam instead, because you're not going to be fighting very much at level 1. You can therefore kind of go across the map and use that for your own rights, and then the AD carry just does their own thing. They reset, they get themselves the item. The wave's bouncing back, they're not going to lose too much farm from that, and they get to come back with a very easy purchase of the cull without losing power at level 1, which can potentially stop you from doing the same thing.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that input there as well. I do remember you talking me through that in spring. Nice.
Actually, I was introduced that by Sheen when he came over to Cast LEC with me.
Shout out.
Yeah,
I remember him talking that through with me as well.
Yeah, it was. Sometimes you look at another region, and you're just like, huh, they're doing that kind of strange, and you don't realize what a trend is because you don't always have the same amount of game time on them. This is a pretty good trend though, using Kalista to go bot side early, but you've got the Blade Wall to. Oh my gosh,
Banderas, Instant Brother here. The mini nard comes through and cries. Wasn't so far away from looking for a solo kill.
If you had all of his cooldowns up there, that would be very, very dangerous. FGG, Venza, oh, not level 3 again.
Oh, level 3, Venza gets hooked! Not like this! Venza, what god, what deity have you taken this deal with to die at level 3 again?
Death, taxes, level 3. How?
I don't understand.
They did the hard work. They did the hard work. They blocked the first Nautilus hook. How does this happen?
There is some serious D&D Warlock shenanigans going on here. Let's have a look at this again, because just walks into it.
Oh my gosh. It's literally just the monkey paw wish, that accursed item of, I want to be the bot lane of the best team in the league. Sure. The monkey paw curl. You will die level 3 every game.
The irony, of course, being that Wukong was the one that picked up the kill as well. So the monkey paw was
actually
picking up that kill.
Curled around the magical staff, the extendamabob thing.
The extendamabob?
Yeah, the extendamabob. I actually don't know what
it's called a staff.
Yeah, the staff, but I don't know. There is actually a specific name for Sun Wukong's.
Does it actually? Of course it does. Yeah, anyway, Mirage hits level 6, steals the dredge line, but that is a well-buffed little bit of Spider-Maning from Abagnale to get out of dodge.
So, again, for some people who think that looks weird, and I'm sure most people will know this if they've played the Champions before, effectively the way the league works, the last... okay, well, no, we can't speak about that. Abagnale's probably going to die here.
And gets a chomp and starts to try and run at Abagnale, who does not have flash, but can get away.
Yeah, it's only first rank pillar, and of course he used it in mid lane, so Dan doesn't have that to close that down. But effectively, the last displacement on your character takes precedence. So if you use... Nautilus hook, say it works with Camille hookshot as well. But like if you get knocked up and then the hook connects with a wall, then that just takes precedence over anything else that happens. And of course with Nautilus it pulls you directly to the wall, so it doesn't actually matter how far you've gone, you just go flinging back there. Funniest
I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
We were casting in some LJL the other week or so. There's a poppy ult onto a Nautilus who flings across the screen and goes right back again.
It was serious Spider-Man bungee cord action going on. I'm talking 2 screens of Nautilus travel.
I'm surprised the G-Force doesn't give that poor person, like, beats them into unconsciousness.
Now, Nautilus is used to travel, changes in pressure, of course. Oh, underwater diver man.
So, I know Hiprain, when he's here, he often does the animal fact. I've got a bug fact for you.
Do you?
Dragonflies, when they actually fly around, they have incredible G-forces on them. Dragonflies, when they fly around, because they're obviously very, like, sudden changes of movement, I think they go into something like 9 Gs, which is actually enough if a human did the same thing, but you just die. It's actually crazy.
Speaking of just dying, though, Abagnale goes for the Hex Flash in to try and find a hook onto FGG, but a little more action to be found. Yep. I believe Dragonflies as well only live for 1 day on average.
Oh.
So they last as newts for a few years, and then when they actually become Dragonflies, they don't last for all that long.
Maybe Venza is the Dragonfly of the bot lane.
Last gets to level 3, and only lasts for a bit.
Level 3 is like, my life cycle's done.
Banderas taking another hefty chunk from Cries, who is doing very well. Flash for it, can't quite land the boulder toss, though. Or the wallop, but Dan is around, and maybe, just maybe, this will still be
the wave's still crashing. Wave's still crashing. I mean, at this point, Cries probably didn't need to flash. They seemed a bit unnecessary. Cries on very low HP.
Thinking about this.
Banderas actually looks for an all-in. He's kept the wave away from the tower to the point where maybe he can now play with a flash.
He looks for the flash in, but there's just too much healing. He can't quite make it work, and valiant attempt from the top lane of NYYRIKKI, but it's just not enough.
And now you're losing, well, you're only losing the 4 minions on the top. You end up, I think probably using the flash there, looking for the great outplay, I think that's worth. You know what, I would have gone for the same thing. I see the option, just sadly doesn't work out for them. Actually, to pick up the farm in topside, it's actually going to be Azure and Abagnale. Moving up towards that top side, of course, it is 8 minutes, which means that you have Herald up, and it means that your bot lane is in position first for this. You're not actually stacking up on the objective with the Kalista, though, and Rel is making their way to the Herald. I think it's going to be down before the time JDXL can commit to it, but just worth
plus FGG to level 6 right now. Whenever he hangs around this mid lane to try and get that off this wave, does indeed, of course, look to try and get towards that flipper. He started up the Herald. There is the 6.
Classic JDXL. Battle for this one off down 1 case. There's level 6 on their jungle and support, but look at that bot lane. Similar, because of course this is now up to 9 minutes, so a couple of waves later than you can do for the earliest. That means that JDXL not really in a position to contest. Just going to let that one go, and NYYRIKKI much like they have done in several games, having a solid first couple of rotations. Of course, losing that kill on top side makes it a little bit awkward for them, but they have a Herald, they have a Kalista, which means that when they have Kalista and Nautilus, you are going to find an engage. So if you try and defend a turret with Kalista, Nautilus, and the Heralds in tow, you're probably losing that fight, which means that JDXL needs to be very careful and about what plays they make, lest NYYRIKKI have a very strong counterplay in response.
Yeah, we've also got to keep our eyes here a little bit on the mid lane, of course, because M&S is, as it stands, trapped a little bit in the airport. Was in Twitch chat earlier saying hello, still in Heathrow.
Oh, really?
So he was interested, like, hi, I'm here, guys, but I'm stuck in the airport. So I think the poor guy is a little bit stuck in transit, but it does mean MyRIKKI, who, of course, was on Team Esker last split, got to EU Masters, took the game off Fnatic Team Kazo, who, of course, was a very prominent team going into that tournament as well. So a relatively recent, valuable player to another team, stepping into some very big shoes, though, and, of course, on the Silas has taken a little bit of punishment early versus the Azir.
Yeah, and someone like Aero's not... hang on, we'll hold that.
I know.
Potential 3v3. Spotting them out with the sweeper, though.
FGG's thinking about it anyway, Shattering Strike, but he's just taken so damn low. He's got the Magnet Storm off, but will die. Venza goes in. S-Rank's available, but Azador's got a Fate's Call. Flash from Venza. Gets one, gets two, and that will be all three dying with a little assistance from Dan.
He's not level 3 anymore, baby. Goes in and just judges it right. We're going to go straight into a replay. He's so fine. Got to see that a second time. They do focus down on FGG, but they don't quite kill him in time before he gets everyone clumped up. Manages to peel Flipper away from Venza, or at least he has to fall off of that. And Venza, while all of this is happening, is stacking up. There aren't Ren stacks in there. Dan comes in and with a well-placed pillar, a little bit of help from the rest of his kit. Venza pops off.
And especially after things start to look a little bit dicey, the call, the early kill, all of that, Gold's back to even. Two of them are straight onto Venza.
So, trying to remember who was saying it. I think it was Diamond Prox actually in the interview, and it was again brought up again on the pre-game. Diamond thought that Wukong was the strongest champion in the game. After the nerfs, not so much. And now Kalista is. Kalista is very much a European bias. We love this champion over here. I think it is probably one of the strongest champions in the game. It's not always going to be on the ban list. I think that some champions like Gangplank are incredibly powerful too. But either way, this champion is so strong to play around, and is strong particularly when you can play towards bot lane and get ahead of the game. You snowball so well, but giving kills over to a Samira does not help. Can they have a second crack at it? How much do they get out of this? It is just those plates, but it is an awful lot of them.
It's not quite the fourth, about an auto away from falling, but they have got themselves just over 2 minutes to collect.
Gosh,
at least one more, so gonna see whether Astor and Abagnale can continue to put pressure on to claim even more of those gold
servers. Can I be
plates.
cheeky and ask for a click on that tower? I want to see how much health it's on. It should be like even increments for that those tower platings. Said that they're panning over to it. How much is on that? Can we actually see? Is it going to be on that? 15 HP. Oh my gosh. Even with the resistances on that, you could walk up to that without minions, and that would be like one auto and play it off. I mean, still a minute and a half for that to happen. You assume that they are probably going to get that one at some point, but JDXL planning to hang around bot side a little longer, maybe forcing the issue. Azir has first move from mid. MyRIKKI's teleported in to join them.
Has indeed. Continuing to take some slightly less than acceptable. Acceptable is really hard. Less than ideal CS trades in the mid lane, of course. Aero doing very well on the Azir right now into this range versus melee matchup. And there is that final plate falling. I don't know whether anyone was actually around to claim it. Sorry, fourth plate falling in the bot zone. I don't know whether anyone was around to claim it. But it's still going to be NYYRIKKI, despite being a little bit caught out with that last place. Sell up some gold. Still in a fairly dangerous position with their carries online.
So, with that Herald being put down, and a lot of gold being put in towards bot side, and then, of course, the mid lane CS advantage, which Aero is doing very well at keeping up, actually. NYYRIKKI
all bounty,
find
actually.
themselves into a gold lead. Is that going to be enough at this point? JDXL have themselves at 2 dragons, and that alongside the kills onto the Samira, meaning that the Kalista isn't just de facto ahead in the way that she really wants to be, does mean that, of course, our analysts in the back room, and some other factors in there too, do believe that JDXL are significantly in the lead. I think they are too, in a lot of ways. Of course, the way this tends to work, though, is it's all good until one bad fight happens. Rosku
does find his way in, but doesn't go any further. I don't know whether that ultimate is available to hijack, so no event. was going to call it like Emperor's, like I was going to call it Adventurer's Divide. I was like, that's
well, so the thing is, though,
thing.
you said that there was like, so you said Adventurer's Divide. I was actually, because you were saying like, oh, these trades are unacceptable. Just reminded me of that one guy from Adventure Time.
Oh, yes.
Lemon grab. Unacceptable. Peace, security, tower smashing. We have it all here. As once again, we have ourselves a mighty culmination of forces in the bot side, but they're not choosing to fight this time.
Yeah, this bush has proved a little bit deadly for a number of AD carry. I think Attila out there has got a bit of a name off, and there's a flash magnet. Storm in with the crash down, but look at the turnaround. Flipper comes in, and Storm meets Storm, and Cyclone comes out on top. Azatop begins to flash around. Abagnale thrown in with the Fate's Call. I choose you, but the Pokemon this time around might not be good enough. It's a 1-for-1 right now, but the hook afterwards means that Dan is in danger of having to be shut down. Azatop gets it. FGG allowed to be the next sacrifice. The Spear of Vengeance gets another.
Oh, and this is such a disastrous play for JDXL. They've been trying to shut down this Callista because you should. Callista needs to be ahead in the game, but every time you put resources down towards this bot side, if it doesn't work out, things get very, very dicey. They don't manage to shut down the Callista. Venza gets cut down first because Flipper is there in time. You've given over a heck of a lot of gold to Callista in a way that you denied beforehand, and I think after this one, they're just got to be shaking their heads and thinking maybe we should have just left this one alone.
Maybe, and honestly, we've seen a few fantastic Nautilus hooks today, but that was 2 in a row there for Abagnale as well, who is having an absolute beautiful time on that pick.
Even though they are 4-9, and of course were one of our bottom teams in spring, I really want to praise this bot lane. I think Astor and Abagnale have had a strong year in NLC as far as bot lanes go. In spring, Astor was my shortlist MVP for the bot lane role. And in summer, he has continually been a driving force for NYYRIKKI. Of course, Banderas giving them a bit of a multi-carry threat, which they struggled to consistently have in summer. But you look at the plays they can make through this, and you can see the real talent there. This has been about capitalizing later into the game. Astor on the Callista before sometimes got a little too deep looking for the game-ending play, and sadly finding the team's end with it. Now, will they have a chance to commit around this? Herald doesn't look like it, choosing rather to go back in towards their lanes and spread themselves across the map.
But NYYRIKKI are around, and they're setting up another little bit of a bait bush here. Abagnale and Flipper are inside of it. FGG doesn't face check any further. Herald secured by JDXL, all the while Banderas shoves in towards this bot lane and gets that wave to crash into the tier 2.
Okay, so once again, NYYRIKKI around this Herald choose to actually put their bot lane towards top side. Of course, they've already taken all the plates bot side now, and a lot of the time when it comes to this, you look at your composition, you look at the lane matchups, you think, who is realistically going to hit towers? And then you try and put that person into the open lane where, of course, that is most achievable to do so. NYYRIKKI have said, look, Callista's the one that's going to be hitting towers right now. Let's go make sure that they're getting that gold, and they do manage to claim another tower. There's 2 turrets now to the none of JDXL, not managed to get onto the board there. And, you know, not for the first time, JDXL, we typically say they're going to crush through the early game, lethal map movements, their jungle support being the best in the league, looking to find some lethal founders. That's a heck of a good flash, actually.
That is about a frame away from
That's a really
death.
good flash. You know, that's... I mean, you're kind of like hoping that Kryze angles the ult in a certain way, but that is unlikely to work out in like 90% of the time. So, yeah, kudos to Banderas for getting out of that one. But going back to the original point, JDXL, this early game has not been the most clean from them. They've had a couple of players go against them, which puts them into a bit of a tricky position. Dragon now on the board. What can they find around this area? Morozcute not there right now, but has a teleport to join.
Does indeed. Of course, the gold lead, as you said, about 4,000 right now for NYYRIKKI. They've got a lot of it onto Azator as well, who'll have his exhaust up shortly.
On the
got the Fate's Call.
We've got a couple of places where Morozcute can come in. It depends what he wants to achieve. And actually, NYYRIKKI are going to get this one without contest. JDXL not going to be able to get themselves a soul point. It is only the Cloud Soul, so maybe JDXL less likely to go towards that one. It's not going to end the game. Whereas actually, it might be the kind of thing where if you give up if you get an early soul and then get an early elder, because NYYRIKKI currently in the lead and they have a Callista, which means they're typically around fights, they're more likely to get the objective. Maybe they're thinking, what if we don't take the dragon so elder loss condition isn't a thing?
Yeah, I mean, on the other side, you do have a Trundle, a Smira, Rel and Silas, all pretty nice with the movement speed on ult. They quite like that one.
Oh yeah, in terms of the actual soul. But I think if you are going to lose the game through objectives, it's probably going to be around early elders while the Callista is still a big force. And so actually I think this is the kind of game where I feel like an early soul for JDXL in some ways, if NYYRIKKI had taken that time to trade for gold or find a good fight instead, I feel like it might work against them.
I would be interested to hear from one of the players' perspectives on XL post this game about that little bit of theory crafting you just did there, because I think there's some valid suggestions.
I mean, at the end of the day, turning it to a dragon gives you a chance to find a fight, and you have a lot of good team fighters on your team. So I think JDXL, if they have the right setup, absolutely go for it, see what you can do. But I think the dragon is more of a gateway to a fight rather than the actual objective itself in this particular game. Now,
oh boy, Aero goes in, but doesn't press the R button. That's
Sorry,
more an
sir, I'll be leaving now,
Emperor's...
sir. ...
And the only thing he really divided there was Dan from FGG briefly with his own body, and then like nothing else.
He divided some like frowning eyebrows raised into their foreheads, going, "What the heck is this guy doing here?"
He kind of thought was better of that. I wonder whether he was just out of range for the ult course, can't see the indicators, and thought that would be a little bit risky.
Well, so when on Azir, actually, if you tap E, regardless where your cursor is, if you have a soldier on the ground, it will just go to it. I have been, I'm as an Azir player myself. It took me a while to pick it up because that Season 5 was a weird time for playing against that champion. That was when I was still suffering from my one-trick pony condition. But
I thought that was a fox, not a pony.
Funny you mentioned that, yeah. But so with Azir, I've fallen prey to occasionally just having a soldier kind of down where I forgot where it was. I tap E and I just fly into the enemy team. I'm like, this is not where I want to be. Anyway, Aero doesn't really get suffered from that. And of course, doesn't really have any big implications at that point.
Well, Banderas is at 2 items here, and I think Kryze is going to be in a lot of danger. I think he's just going to get solo kill. There's no way out. He's got no mega coming, flashing away into the bush, and gets accelerated shock blast to the face.
Oh,
and falls down.
Dan's going to clean up, so Banderas going to have to be sitting there, ring his own demise, but he's taken a flash, taken a kill.
Aaron's on the other side of the map.
And this is actually a seriously good play for Banderas. Banderas, not for the first time in his own right, finding NYYRIKKI advantages in a side lane.
They've got themselves Smite plus Kalista. This Baron is going to be incredibly hard to even consider stopping. JDXL is going to give it up. That's Baron.
That is oh my god, it goes down to 20 HP at the end of that, though. Smite takes down 75. NYYRIKKI had the objective secure, but one person flipping in from JDXL, and that goes disastrously. NYYRIKKI, though, against JDXL, the leaders of the NLC, our most dominant team, 12-1, while NYYRIKKI sit outside of playoffs itself, are in a significant advantage. Good gold lead. Lead on an important character in Kalista who has to play it from ahead. They have achieved that. JDXL, losing through side lane and not having too many grouped up fight options as it stands right now, will, much like Riddle earlier versus X7 unsuccessfully managed to do, have to try and problem solve their way out of a losing scenario.
Reminder as well that NYYRIKKI are fighting to stay out of relegation spots. This win would be huge. And in a match that honestly seemed next to impossible on paper with how good JDXL have been. Yes, they were a little fortunate, of course, with Moroshku being subbed in for M&S due to kind of unforeseen reasons. But even so, you know, they were missing a banner at the beginning of this one. This is Flipper's last game, and that's got to be hitting some of the mentality as well, one would imagine. And still, they are now up a healthy amount of gold. The map's theirs. They are very firmly in command with this Baron, and they are very happily looking like they're on the way to what looks like a victory right now.
Well, they're definitely in the winning position. I think right now it feels like their game to lose. They have to overstay into a Rel combo. That's probably one of the worst ways it can go. Just watch to see what JDXL can do with vision and see what they can do to see if they can find some of those miracle teleports. They're playing against a stopwatch on the Azir. That's one thing to take care of. But outside of that, you're basically dealing with that and a Kalista ult to keep NYYRIKKI safe. They're grouping up all 5 members in the bot side. If JDXL want to find a big cataclysmic fight, maybe it is now, but they themselves have everyone seen on vision. All they're doing is clearing. They're not looking for a flank. They're just holding their own.
Yeah, only playing on the one lane right now, and I feel that's something that JDXL are pretty pleased about. NYYRIKKI don't want to give the opportunity for an uneven fight when the siege is ongoing.
See that there's a lot of poke on the side of NYYRIKKI. They have themselves those shock blasts coming over the wall. It's very hard to engage onto a Jace at this point. It's one of the things about geography when you're pushing into this side lane outer turrets, either this one on if you're pushing into bot lane inner when you are the blue side team, or on the other side if you're red side and pushing into that top side, and it's very hard to shut someone down across the wall. You can't just go across that tri-brush, well, not tri-brush, but you can't go across that same wall to shut down that same person. NYYRIKKI use that geography, take themselves a turret, very free of contest really, just take it slow. slow and steady is starting to get them further and further ahead in this race. Now, we don't count JDXL out. They are our first team for a reason, and they are very good at team fighting their way out of bad situations when they have found themselves in the unlikely ones, but they don't have MNS. They have Mrozgu. While he has had a stable game so far, he's actually not really found himself getting involved. That has to change if JDXL want to find a way back into this. We mentioned it very early into the game. Silas has a lot of agency this game. Need to see Mrozgu start using it.
But
find a way.
Aero and Asdor have a lot of gold in contrast. It's a significant lead in terms of items for both of them. Gold bounties on both for obvious reasons, and honestly, it's an item ahead right now for Azator, and that is a big deal in comparison to JDXL, who really are waiting for at least maybe a third item on the Samira would be preferable.
So Venza has actually chosen to sit on the Serrated Dirk, which is a very efficient item. Good amount of AD, and of course the Thought you get with it, but chosen to go to the Lord Dominates Regards. I think that makes a lot of sense. It is a more efficient item just in general. Than the Collector, fully built. Does mean the Venza is sat at a point of power, but how is this Samira going to function? You really need to wait for NYYRIKKI to slip up, allow you to stack up, and of course that's very difficult for Samira to do with the right kind of things. Ouch, yep, the Ace does damage, by the way. 3 items, very far ahead of the curve in his own right, but that little trade has allowed Cryers a chance to hit a tower. On the other side, NYYRIKKI doing the same.
They do indeed tower for tower trade, but I think for JDXL they'll take that one, especially considering it took them significantly less members to do that, but they do have a wave.
Look at Rel. This is one of the things which you need to be very careful of when you're pushing beyond your vision line. They don't see the flank. Can they find the fight?
Now they need to try and find the way in. Flash Magnet Storm gets them into the backline, but can they stay alive? No, Rel's gone. Fate's call to get Abagnale out to safety. They go in with Mrozgu, but he just dies. It cannot secure. And Emperor's Divide. JDXL try for the flank, can't make it work. Venza into the backline with the S rank, but he is quickly shut down. He isn't featuring Dante for very long indeed this game. And Dan now with the subjugate running cannot stay alive, and actually NYYRIKKI with so many members to the good can start looking into it, maybe even look for the game.
Oh, and JDXL, one by one, they go in and they fall just as surely. You don't have your bot side of the map. Can they even defend these towers? NYYRIKKI with not enough minions. Choose to back off. FGG respawning enough to dissuade them. Now JDXL, they have a teleport on Mrozgu. They have very few wards to go to, but JDXL not giving up the chase right now, wanting to hamper these retreats, not let them back easily.
Spawning, actually, this might be an angle for JDXL, saying, look, if you have to reset at this point, we have a Baron angle.
I think, yeah, with 30 seconds on Baron, just delaying the recalls gives something for JDXL to play around. Going to go straight into his replay to, again, see what happened after this one, because this is after Rel's already died. I think that FGG had the right angle, just the timing wasn't quite there, and when you are playing against a Nautilus as Rel, you are at a point where it's very easy to cancel your CC, cancel your dash, and Rel not that tanky, and of course in that clip, Samira absolutely not tanky either. Gets in with a great ultimate swirling around, but it just wasn't enough, and that stopwatch being very high value for Abagnale to break open the base and force JDXL even more onto a back foot.
We're left with a game that is 8,000 in NYYRIKKI's favor. A base broken. And Dragons even. This might not be what you were expecting looking at this, but Bandera's about to face check. Could be a bit of a turnaround. Crashdowns there. And I don't think there's any way out for this Jason. Remember, Baron's alive, so he has got to try and get as much done as he can. So much damage as a flash secures the kill for Cryes.
Yeah, with Flipper coming up, it got a little dangerous. That's why Cryes wanted to flash in, get the timely secure of that kill, make sure it was just confirmed. But NYYRIKKI finding themselves still, even with that, in an advantageous scenario. It's 1 kill back. That's good for JDXL. It gets them something. But it's not enough to turn the table of this game. Imagine what a day it would be if Singularity win, if NYYRIKKI win, but they have to put this game to bed. How can they do that? Mrozgu's teleporting in.
Teleport for teleport. No hijacked ultimate quite yet. Abagnale, dredge line out to safety was still a Fate's call, so not in any real danger, you would assume. Venza instead just wild rush into the mid lane to secure that one, and a little bit of tension, but nothing that really explodes right there.
I think what you can see in that play is JDXL, that's the kind of play where they normally would have vision to kind of make a miracle flank, but they haven't really managed to capitalize on this time. They haven't had great vision control since they've fallen behind. That is one of the best ways you can get back into a game. You can catch people off. You can try and guess where the enemy team are going to put their next ward, sit in that fog of war and catch them out. They haven't managed to do that, haven't found any ways to pick NYYRIKKI apart. Baron is going to be absolutely melted. FGG stayed a long time to get this flank. They have the vision control now. What can they do with it?
But can they extricate themselves is indeed the question. FGG will find the way onto Azitor! That's a key carry, but can they actually finish him off? He's so tanky. The Emperor's Divide knocks them all away! And Aero gets FGG. What more can they get out? It's a kill, plus Baron, plus a shock blast to start tanking some more. Abagnale's dredge lines, drag them all under. A depth charge to follow, and Venz's hull is well and truly breached.
Oh, but serious MVP there is Aero. Dashes into the jaws of JDXL and says, you do not take my AD carry today. Divides them away from the Kalista. Kalista lives, and NYYRIKKI against the first place team with a strength of schedule which seems so far beyond them, finally get themselves a win, and it is against the top team.
They move further away from the fear of relegations. They move even potentially out there in the absolute extreme of cases towards a playoff dream. But FGG ain't done yet. Maybe XL at the last gasp, at the last saloon can find something, but no, they just don't have the damage. Blitzcrank will question why they even bothered. And NYYRIKKI fell the first place team.
We have said now for weeks, NYYRIKKI